Hey, Jerry Fetta here. Welcome back to another weekly wealth walk. I want to talk to you about something that I encountered this week that I want to share with you as I was going through my own wealth building journey. It was a wake up moment for me that I want you to be in on because I think you might have the same kind of moment once you hear this. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to another weekly wealth walk. My name is Jerry Fetta. I'm the CEO of Philanthro Wealth, and I do these videos each week to share with you my wealth building progress. Right? Again, I'm walking the walk. I'm doing the things that I talk about. And there's a lot of gurus out there that are, telling you one thing and they do something different. And so I think the level of transparency and behind the curtains and really being real, like here's what's going on, here's the realism of it. That's the purpose of these videos, right? And so if you've ever watched someone where you're like, man, I can't tell if that person's legit or not, or I see them say one thing, but they do something different, really that's why I do these, is I want you to see that this is actually what you need to do. This is actually what I do. This is actually what's being done. And again, none of this is my stuff. I have what I call my founding fathers of wealth. These are old, dead, wealthy people who have lives that I could emulate, right? And there's elements of that. So I learn from these people. I study them because I can see the full story, and I pick these things up and I implement them in my own life. Okay. So here's what I want to go over this week on my weekly wealth walk. As you are building wealth, there are ways you can grow by addition, right? Like continuing to work the hours, and you add and you add and you add and you add and you add, right? And we can whiteboard this out just to give some visual, okay? So you can grow by addition, right? This is one by one by one, and these could be hours made, hours worked, sales made, whatever it might be, and it's one foot in front of the other, okay? And so there's this phrase of he who has been responsible with little will be given a lot. And I think that, for me early on in my life, I wasn't that responsible, right? I grew up in poverty. So by definition, I did not have examples of what financial responsibility looks like. So it's not like I was immediately I'm responsible. No, I was extremely financially irresponsible, and I had to learn through the school of hard knocks that doesn't work and there's a better way to do things. Next, I don't want to interrupt you too long. I just want to give you a free offer for my book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. If you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, you can get the book now. I'm going to let you get back to the video. So as I started to learn that, I became more and more responsible. I started to see these are the steps, right? And so I took the route of business, entrepreneurship, and I started learning things like sales and building a business and this and that. And you're going to grow by addition for a period of years. You're building your foundation. And so if you were to compress this down into okay, let's look at a longer phase here. This is maybe the first 1 to 5 years, right? And maybe you look at the framework of a full 20 years. If we were to think of it in that scope, you probably are going to see something more like this, where it's if you're tracking progress, it looks like that, where it's very little growth that first 1 to 5 years. And then from here onward, you've got this upward projection, okay? And so you're going from growing your wealth by addition to growing your wealth with multiplication, exponential growth, right? And the best example of this, honestly, is compounding interest. So let's say you start with $100 and you're earning 10%, right? And that $100 becomes $110, okay? You took one step forward, okay? And then you take the 110 and you earn 10%, and it becomes, 111, and it grows and it grows and it grows, and you're adding $11, and then you're adding, 12 and 13 and 14 and 15, and it's that little tiny steps forward, and you might be like, wow, I've only got $150 now, right? And that looks like these little steps, but what happens is as it gets bigger, you hit a certain point where your initial 100 is 300, right? And you're still earning 10%. But now 10% is you're increasing it by 30, not 10. Your increased growth is triple. Your growth rate is triple what it used to be. And that's this multiplication phase. Imagine if it's 1,000. Okay, now you're growing every single year by the number you started with. Your original was 100, and now you go up by 100 every single year. Your 1 year growth rate is more than what you started at initially in just a single year. You've basically continued to grow that over and over. So this is the multiplication part, okay? And so what I have seen is, this is my own experience, and I looked at this week. You've got to confront, where are you at in this? Okay, are you in the addition phase or are you in the multiplication phase? Because if you take a math equation that's an addition problem, right, and you try and solve it with multiplication, it's not going to solve. It's not a multiplication problem. It's an addition problem. What's the next number we need to add to get to the outcome? Right? Like if I have 3 plus blank equals 4, there's not a way I can put a multiplication sign in there and have any number in that equal 4. Right? Like I'm trying to get this next thing done. And so if that's the mode you're in, like realize that that's part of the season you're in. That's part of the game right now. You're one foot in front of the other. And one of the mistakes that I see is people who are in the addition phase trying to grow by multiplication. Right? The trick with multiplication is the larger your original number is, right? So let's say we take 2 times 1, right? Okay, 2 times 1 is 2. Right? 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times, 4 is 8, right? And if you're at a 2, you've not added very much to multiply something against. Okay? If instead of a 2, you're a 10, okay? 10 times 2 is 20. At the 2 level, how many of those would you have to get the same number? It's 10 times more of them. Right? And so I think if you're thinking with how do I multiply and how do I speed this up, I believe you're making a mistake if you're not looking at like, how do I add to go from a 2 to a 10 first? If I can just add and go from a 2 to a 10, I can scale 10 a lot faster than I can 2. And that's really what multiplication is it's scaling. It's scaling. And so you can't skip and take the shortcut and say, well, I'm not going to go through this establishing and foundational wealth building phase and I'm just going to skip to the good part. Because when you do, what happens is it's the equivalent of I've got $100 and I'm putting it in Bitcoin and hoping I become a millionaire. You're trying to multiply $100 by such a big number that you can skip everything. Versus the guy that's like, hey, I've got 100,000 and I want to put that in something that makes sense and is a safe bet multiplier, right? Because here's the thing, in business and wealth, you've got, the original number that you have, then you've got the thing you're multiplying it with. That second number equates to risk. Okay, if I'm trying to take 2 and multiply it by 10, trying to find the 10x is risk. It's risky. If I take 10 and I try and multiply it by 2, doing it by 2 is a lot less risky. Right? Risk is chance for loss. What's the number 1 rule of investing? Never lose money. What's the second rule? Never forget rule number 1. Okay, I have violated rule number 1 before. It's not fun. It takes a lot of work just to get back to where you were. And it's discouraging because you're like, man, if I would have just not made that decision, I would be so far ahead right now. But because of that one decision, that one, lack of due diligence or trying to take the shortcut or wanting the outcome so bad that I don't actually inspect what's going on underneath, right? And that's the thing that can cause you all of your progress to be lost. And having experienced that before myself a couple years back, I'm telling you, don't go down that road. Okay? Focus on adding and getting enough of a foundation first. Now, here's the other thing too. When you're doing multiplication, oftentimes if you're skipping, the thing you're doing the multiplying with is not of the same type or form as the thing you were doing addition with. Right? Let's use this in terms of assets. I am adding to my net worth by buying a property. And I buy another property, and I buy another property. I'm adding properties. At some point, this will go through the establishment foundation. It will start to multiply. Okay? Let's say I get in the shortcut mindset. I'm like, I want to skip this. I want to save time. I want to be there faster. Okay? And I'm going to take, instead of property, I'm going to put it into foreign currency or tech stock or crypto or whatever it might be. So I can try and multiply faster. Realize you've now changed games. The game you were playing with addition is not the same game or the same tools you're playing with at the multiplication. So if you don't know the rules to that new game, the multiplication game, and you're just like, oh, this is a fast way. No, that's an entire new game. There are different players, opponents, barriers, purposes, rules, all this stuff. That's an entire training exercise you've got to do on learning the new game that you're about to play. And most people don't do that. They give up a known source of income or growth because they think it's boring or it's slow, and they trade it for something that's new, it's unexplored, it's unproven, it doesn't have a track record. They go all in on it. And what happens is they kill their original thing. And then they end up having to start over because they couldn't just keep building step by step and be patient and let this thing happen. Right? Buffett has a great quote about like, you can't make more women pregnant to try and have a baby faster. Right? Each of them is going to take 9 months. So it's like, you did one, you're already 2 months into it. Doing another one is not going to make the first one speed up. You just now have another person and another baby to worry about. Right? Like focus on the first one. Just get through the 9 months. That's how long it's going to take. Then that's how long it's going to take. Do a good job of getting through that. Hey, what's up? Jerry here. I just wanted to give you another reminder. Grab my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. It's going to be one of the best books you have ever read on finance. I can promise you that. You're going to love it. It's also a free offer. So if you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, you can get that now. Okay. The final point I want to bring up on this is decisiveness. Okay. In order to really build wealth in the long range, you need to be decisive. You need to decide and stick with decisions. And so someone who is growing by addition and they're trying to take the shortcut, they're trying to multiply fast, they're trying to skip things, they're looking for shortcuts or ways out or corners they can cut, generally speaking, that person is being indecisive. They're indecisive on the thing they have now. They can't make up their mind. I have this thing. Should I keep doing it? Do I not want to do it? I like it. I don't like it. It works. It doesn't work. And it probably works, right? But they're like indecisive about it. That's what causes them to go look at something else in the first place. They've not decided and committed to the thing they're doing. And indecision and lack of commitment are the opposite of wealth building tools. They don't build wealth. Indecision can't build wealth. Lack of commitment cannot build wealth. Right? So when you see this indecision, lack of commitment, trying to take shortcuts, trying to, avoid the hard stuff, those aren't good signs. Those are not long-range signs. And so I had to confront this in my own wealth building because I've been at this for such a long time, right? And I'm making my progress, I'm doing my stuff, and I'm starting to look and I'm like, okay, I see this thing and that could speed this up. And the more I look at this, I'm like, this is a different thing. This is multiplying, but am I done adding yet? Right? And if I'm not done adding yet, do I really need to be trying to multiply? Or is there more foundation to be built? And here's the thing is I'm not even mad at building the foundation because when I looked at this, I had the same thing I'm telling you guys. If I'm 2 times 10 and I'm like, well, let me spend a little more time making that 2 into a 10 or an 11 or a 12 or a 15 even. And I'm just adding and adding and adding and adding and adding. When I finally find the right opportunity to multiply the thing that I've spent this time on, it's going to immediately scale. Right? Instead of like 2 times 10 and I've got to do this 10 times now and I'm at 20. Okay? If I get to a 10, I do it twice and I'm at the same spot. And because I'm swinging with 10s now, if I go 2 times 10 and I'm at 20, guess what? Now I've got to go 2 times 11. Oh, great. I'm going to go from 20 to 22 now. Oh, I'm going to go from 22 to 24 now. Like you see how it isn't that much growth on the long range back end versus if I grow by addition and build it up to a 10, I go from 10 times 2 equals 20. Well, guess what? The next one I get to skip to 30. Then I get to skip to 40. And that back end growth, I exponentially outpace any time I would have saved on the front end. By a long shot. It's not even close anymore. Right? Like I'm at 100 with this higher, 10. And on the 2, it's like I'm not even in the 30s yet. I'm not even in the 40s yet. So I wanted to share that because that was a moment that I had this week where I was like, wow, this is a wake-up call for me because even as knowledgeable as I am, even as experienced as I am, even I get tempted with this kind of stuff where it's like, is there a faster way? Is there a shortcut? Is there something that could multiply what I'm doing? And it's like, what am I actually doing? And what's the value and worth of that? And have I maxed out the potential on the activities I'm doing already in order to warrant jumping into the next thing? So I hope that this gives you some perspective. Like if you're, and I'm not saying don't scale, right? Like I want to make sure you don't have that message either. Do it when you've got the foundation for it. Scale your wealth, scale your business when you've got the foundation for it. And if that means you spend more time in the earlier years building that, so be it, but you're gonna thank yourself in the long run. So that's all I've got for today. Thank you for watching this weekly Wealth Walk. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Hey, this is Jerry Fetta here. I want to thank you for watching my video, watching my content. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to learn more about the blueprint to financial freedom and how you can achieve passive income that exceeds your savings, your expenses, your taxes, your generosity, and build wealth like the top 1%, I want to encourage you, grab a copy of my book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. You can go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, or you can click the link in the description of the video here. The copy is free. You cover your shipping. We'll send the book out to you, and we'll send you an email with a bunch of great bonus material also for free. Get the book, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on my next content.